So here we are. This is Welcome to Penguin's Wanderlust.
Oh, I'm supposed to.
Yeah, this is Penny. This is Penguin. This is my longtime friend Ingrid Crickmore. Ingrid is a really great craft person. She has on the internet a site called Loop Braiding, and the URL is loopbraider.com. And we are here at the beautiful Centralia, Washington old-time music camp out. And you can put him in the pocket, he's fine. And she's here to tell us a little bit about her finger loop braiding that she's taught me over the years. And I have many bracelets at home from doing workshops with Ingrid, so she's here today. So welcome, Ingrid.
Thank you.
How would you describe finger loop braiding?
It's a very basic, easy craft that has been done all over the textile craft that's been done all over the world for probably thousands of years, and sort of started to die out, I suppose, when mechanized braiding machines came into being. But it's still a very handy and easy and beautiful, I think, beautiful craft. So that's how I would describe it. Yeah, it's a way of making cords and bands with braiding, which is basically weaving on the diagonal, weaving that goes diagonally down the path of the work rather than horizontally and vertically.
Yes. When did you first discover loop braiding?
Oh, I think it was in 2006. I was at a knitting group. We would meet in a cafe in my hometown, and they were talking about I-cord, which is a way of knitting a cord. And one of the women there said that she knew how to braid I-cord, and I was kind of intrigued and asked her to show me, and she showed me a 5-loop braid, which is, I thought it was fascinating, and I thought it seemed very easy to do the way she showed me, but I quickly forgot how at home, and luckily I had taken a few notes when she showed me, and with those I was able to do it at home after a few days. So.
Was it a slender cord like these ones? Or?
Yeah, it was well, she demoed with very thin knitting yarn that she happened to have with her. So
cool.
It was very simple. It was just a simple pink little cord, but she said it would look very pretty if I used embroidery cloths.
So would I-cord, is the I like the letter I?
Yeah, I-cord, I think it's a term Elizabeth Zimmerman came up with for this type of knitted cord. I think it stands for idiot cord because it's very easy. I think it's very easy to make. I've never made it, but instead I started braiding, and I got so into it that all my knitting fell by the wayside, and I haven't really knitted anything since, I don't think, but I want to.
My granddad had made me a wooden circle with a hole in the middle with little finishing nails around it, and taught me how to loop it around to make quite a thick cord that came out the bottom of that. It was some of my happiest memories, and I think I'm a pack rat, that thing's still hanging around somewhere.
People still use those. I don't remember what they're called, but those are fun. And
occasionally you see plastic versions in the kids sections of the stores for toys. Did you get any one-on-one instruction for actual finger loop braiding?
Yeah, that's what she showed me.
Okay.
So she showed me how to do a 5-loop braid, and she also said it was great what she told me about it too, because she opened up a lot of possibilities in just a very quick demo. She showed me with 5 loops, and she said you could add more loops you could make fancier ones by just adding more loops on the fingers up to a limit of 9. Well, but no more. And
because you still need one
You
finger
need one
to
finger
move,
to do the, yeah, you need
the
one finger to do the braiding.
cord.
She didn't show me that, but so when I actually was here at camp, although I don't think you were here.
I think I was when you were? Yeah, when you were figuring that out.
Oh, because it was one year, it was maybe the first or second year of this, that I came to this camp out. And it was after most of the people had gone home that I brought out, and there were just a few of us left. The last day was a cleanup day or something, and I brought out after we'd done whatever we needed, we were helping out clean up the camp. I brought out my instructions, the little notes I had written down, and that embroidery floss, and there were just a few of us down at the other end of the pasture.
Okay,
and
I might have been gone by then.
You might have been. Maybe I had
it
them out.
was the year
Maybe it was the year after.
that I
But anyway, so I
saw
brought.
you doing it.
She had said to use embroidery floss, so I brought some. I had a lot of embroidery floss. I brought it along, and a little bunch of us sat there and figured it out, or did it together, and I think it was then that I tried 7 loops. You know, I tried the 5, and then I tried 7, and it was so intriguing that I was still doing it as Bob and I drove away the next morning. I was braiding away in the car as he drove, or the van, I forget what we had then. And we got to some camp in Washington somewhere, and she had said you could use 9 loops, so then I wanted to go up one more, and all that was left were thumbs, so I figured, oh, well, okay, you put them on your thumbs. And I did that, and I found out later it was nobody braided with loop braiding on their thumbs. I mean, I find no references to it later when I looked this up and tried to Google it online.
Interesting.
And I hadn't found it any, you know, my teacher obviously had done it, because she told me I could, but it was kind of a revelation to me that you could do it with 9 loops so easily, but I couldn't find any mention of it anywhere when I looked it up.
So the basic idea is that you would cut your embroidery floss to a certain,
whatever,
to a certain length, tie a knot on the ends, anchor it to like your chair or whatever from a distance, and then the braid is however many fingers that you're using. So for a 5, you might have 3 on one side and 2 on the other, and you're going back and forth.
Yeah.
So the thumb is when you kind of are running out of fingers, and you're going to have to start moving on to toes.
Well, no, what people did historically is move on to 2 people, you and me, braiding together. But what Carolyn may have left out, or it might not be that clear to people, is that it isn't just a string, it's a loop of, the fiber is held as a loop. So the other big difference between loop braiding and other types of braiding, where you just take, you know, yarn or thread or whatever you're using and braid over under with it, is you are holding your fiber at the end of the piece, and you're working with big motions, and it tightens up here as you spread apart. So it's kind of, it's not little and fussy like some braiding would be, and it's kind of a big motion that you do. There's videos on my blog, so, but just to give people the idea. No, but what people would do, like in the olden days, is 2 people would braid together from the same point of braiding, and they would hold loops.
Oh, so you and I would both be holding
We would both
our
be
hand.
braiding. We would both be braiding on the same braid. We would cooperate, and I'm sure.
So would we have to start on, like, my hands first?
No, you would
and then, or
you
we
would do your
working
moves.
at
I
the
would do
same
mine.
time?
We would be
So it would
essentially
come in parallel, kind of
because
together.
each time we finished one set of moves, often it's just 2 moves, 1, 2, and you do your 2. Then we would trade 1 loop.
Oh, we would trade a loop.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
through in between, and that would connect the two halves. We would be braiding the 2 halves of the braid.
Partner loop braiding for
yeah.
the advanced.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be advanced. I've shown people have learned how to do the individual braid, and, you know, half an hour later or 20 minutes later done the combined braid. It's not really any harder, and it's more fun when you're doing it with another person.
And the other thing that's fun is using different colors and then getting different patterns. And it's so inexpensive, and they work up quite quickly too. And Ingrid taught us ways of putting in buttonholes and then making a little knot so that they're actually adjustable.
Yeah, that's one thing you can do. I should show, for the camera, I should show some. I mean, these are samples that I've been working on lately that I've put in this book. But this is short samples of basically what we're talking about. Little braided, decorative cords, but very strong and useful. I mean, these were made because they were needed. I mean, they weren't made as decorative items originally. They were made because people needed strong connecting things to tie stuff up with. And
Before the age of zippers.
yeah, before zippers and buttons.
Yeah.
So they are very practical, and yet people like making things beautiful. So
Right.
yeah.
And so some of the practical uses that you've used loop braids for, well, you have your bracelets, and then you made the one for your
Yeah,
hat.
I usually have a braided hat string. The bracelet, I mean, this bracelet actually was a sample for teaching that I then made into a bracelet. I mean, I do wear them as bracelets, but I was never particularly into jewelry or bracelets before I learned how to loop braid, and I think people I've taught have used them for more practical purposes than I myself have. I mean, yeah, hat strings.
Instruments.
I've made
I
a.
guess some
oh, I don't
people
have
put
it-
them on their mandolins and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I actually have made. I don't have it on me right now, but I've made a braided little sheath to hold a pen that I hang from
All right.
belt.
That I borrowed the other day.
Did you? Oh yeah.
Yeah, because Ingrid's been helping me understand how to make fingerless gloves from a crochet pattern.
Oh yeah, I do.
My mentor in all things craft.
I do love crocheting and knitting and other things than loop braiding, but I've found loop braiding to be very fun and engaging, and kind of, I like it almost the way I like crossword puzzles. Is, I like figuring out ways to do different things with it. So
And you have just a few notes there.
yeah, this is my working notebook for the next tutorial, and well, I hope the next tutorial I'm going to put on my loop braiding blog, which I haven't. Or
And
it's
there's
a
the triangle
topic.
braid.
No, the triangle braid tutorial is done. I
Oh.
did, and it's up. I did have a working notebook for that. This is these are pickup patterning braids, which is a topic that I'm a little scared to bring up on the blog because it's kind of complicated to explain, but it's a very fun topic. So I'm still trying to work out
All right.
how I'm going to
for
present
how
it.
to teach the
Yeah.
where you are in the pattern. Yeah.
Well, there's pickup patterning is where you make designs that aren't automatic. They don't come automatically from the braiding roots. You choose
okay.
where to make them. Like this one here. I mean, normally if you're braiding, you get a repeated pattern that just automatically replicates itself
Right,
down the
right.
braid because of the automatic braiding moves. But with pickup patterning, you do something differently here or there to change the pattern and the pattern in the braid. It can be a very simple pattern, but it isn't a result of just automatic braiding moves. The braider decides when to do something that will make a little
Make the
different.
pattern
Make the
change,
pattern change.
yeah.
So I'm trying to think of a
So
really.
you actually have more control when you're
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, you have more control in a way. I mean, it's limited too because it's just two colors. Anyway, I'm still strategizing how to present it in a user-friendly way.
And Ingrid's blog, which is the loop braiding at loopbraider.com, it has instructions on how to set yourself up and get started. And within that, she also has YouTube videos that actually teach you how to make some of the braids. And if you have further questions that aren't answered on the blog, she also will answer email and may address it there or in a future blog post. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the easiest or best loop braid to first learn?
Well, it kind of depends on, with me, it depends on the age of the braider and how confident they are. I usually teach, if I'm teaching children under 11 or 12, I usually start with a 3-loop braid, which is probably the easiest, but for adults and teenagers, I usually start with a 5-loop braid because it seems more rewarding, and it isn't very hard. I mean, once a person's fingers are developed past, it's funny, but 11-year-olds, they can often understand the braid and the moves very quickly. I've had one or two 9 to 11-year-olds explaining to their parent, their mother, no, you should be doing that, correcting them as they're doing the braid I taught them. But the younger one, the child's fingers might not be really ready to do it, and so I usually teach them a 3-loop braid. But a 5-loop one is really manageable and can have really fun designs.
Yeah, I have some
be very
well-loved braids at
yeah,
home.
They can be very fun to make and make a very strong and cohesive braid. So I'd say a 5-loop braid. Usually I'd start with a square braid because it leads to so many other braids, but supposedly the big favorite braid worldwide is a 5-loop braid that's not quite square. It's beveled in some way, the unorthodox braid.
So the actual outside of the braid changes too. So you can have flat braids and round braids and triangle. So it's quite interesting geometrically too.
Yeah, they can be many different shapes. Flat, thin and flat, or kind of thick and flattish. I call those rectangular. Square or round, or sort of a semi-triangle. That one you just learned is kind of wedge-shaped.
So would you suggest that the person starting out keep a notebook like you have of instructions and sample braids?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I think this notebook is to help me organize for teaching. So I did keep notebooks when I was first learning them.
Yeah,
I mean,
remember
I
them.
did.
You had tons of them.
Yeah,
and they were all meticulous.
Oh my gosh!
And you had them all organized with. Yeah, you had everything. You had it very organized. I was really impressed.
Well, I think that came as I was. There wasn't anything, or there wasn't much online for the braids I was learning. There was nothing about 9-loop braids. There was nothing. I was kind of making some stuff up as I went along, and I had to record, or I wouldn't remember them. I couldn't go online or to a book and relearn them if I forgot. And I knew from my very first one that it was very easy to forget, because the woman that showed me the 5-loop braid, she showed me you can learn it in 10 minutes, and I thought, great, I know it. But sure enough, a couple days later, I had forgotten. So I did have some notes, so I think that taught me I better write these things down.
Right.
But, I mean, it is fun to write them down, but it isn't necessary. I know people that have braided for a lot of...
So personal choice, really.
Yeah. I mean, Sawyer, she's braided for years. She's never written anything down. She keeps a lot of her braids, but she doesn't... Yeah, it really is up to the person. They like doing that.
So have you found that your loop braiding has helped you travel the world?
Well, that's a leading question because you know the answer. I have been able to go to one foreign country to teach loop braiding. I went to England to Manchester in 2012 to teach at it was then the second international braiding conference, which encompassed a lot more than loop braiding. I mean, it was a very exciting conference. These things are because there are all these little obscure techniques. Not just braiding. It was also the Braid Society, which sponsored this thing, includes narrow wears like weaving and are we out of time?
We're getting out of time.
I think that's way out of time. Anyway, yeah, it was very exciting, and I did get to go because of the blog, the teaching blog, had made people in the Braid Society notice that I had done some kind of new stuff and might be interested in teaching.